This is the story of The Magic Key by Mary Frances. Tommy and Mary Lou lived with their mother and father in a little house at the edge of a beautiful forest. Little Mary Lou was sure that fairies and elves lived in the forest. But matter of fact, Tommy said, that's nonsense. Seeing is believing, and I've never seen a fairy or an elf. One day Tommy said, I'm tired of playing in the woods, or playing in the garden. Let's go into the woods, and let's look for the fairies, suggested Mary Lou. I've told you 1,000 times, Mary Lou, that is nonsense, but let's go. Tommy took Mary Lou by the hand, and off they went along the winding path that led into the forest. Mary Lou and Tommy walked and walked until they came to a big rock at the foot of an old oak tree. Mary Lou saw a funny little hole in the rock. Look, she called to Tommy, it's just like a keyhole. How strange, said Tommy. I think I have a key that fits in there. I found it in the garden this morning. Then Tommy fished into his pocket and pulled out a rusty old key. This must be the key to fairyland, said Mary Lou. Tommy fitted the key into the hole in the rock, and before he could say nonsense, the strangest thing happened. The rusty old key began to glow like gold. The ferns and toadstools near the rock seemed to grow and grow and grow. The toadstools became so tall that Tommy and Mary Lou could stand under them, which is exactly what they did. Are you growing smaller, or are the toadstools growing taller? Asked Tommy in a matter-of-fact way. What is happening? Shh, whispered Mary Lou. We are in fairyland. And Tommy stopped saying it's all nonsense, or you won't see the elves and fairies. This time Tommy didn't agree with Mary Lou. Wherever he looked, elves were busy sawing planks and building trestle tables and benches just like those in a picnic ground. Other elves with buckets and mops were scrubbing and polishing the rocks and sweeping the carpet of moss as though they were getting ready for a big party. The elf in charge was named Gruffy. He was muttering and sputtering orders, and he was trying to chase away the younger elves who were playing tag around the workmen. By hickory and by dickory, explained Tommy. Gruffy heard him. By hickory and by dickory, he shouted as he turned around to stare at the children. By Ackery and by Zachary, how did you learn the password, and where did you find the key? Why, I always say by hickory and by dickory, said Tommy, and I don't know anything about Ackery and Zachary. Never mind, you're not supposed to know. Now I'm really in trouble. I have to stop my work and take you to the Queen, and we'll never be ready for the party. Elves began to crowd around the children, and Mary Lou smiled at them. What party, sir? She asked politely. The Queen's party, said Gruffy. Didn't you know that the Queen always gives a party on the first day of summer? That's when the new year starts in fairyland. Then he clapped his hands and shouted, Elves, back to work. Every one of you, or none of you, will get to go to the party. Come along, children. I must take you to the Queen before it is too late. Too late for what? Asked Tommy, who always wanted to know the facts about everything. Too late to send you home, of course. Real people are not allowed in fairyland, replied Gruffy as he hurried the children along a queer little path bordered with flowers. Everywhere fairies and elves were busily working. Gruffy led Tommy and Mary Lou through a long, wide hall until they came to a great throne room. It was the biggest and most beautiful room that Tommy and Mary Lou had ever seen, and at the very end of the room the Fairy Queen sat on her throne. She wore a golden crown with shiny diamond star. Mary Lou and Tommy had never seen anyone so beautiful. The Queen was surrounded by her court, her fairies in waiting, and the Prime Minister. Of course. Oh, did I miss a page? I knew some child would find it, said Prime Minister. Find what, my lord? Said the Queen. The key to fairyland. I lost it last night when I was out delivering invitations to the birds and butterflies. Now you will have to banish me from fairyland. Of course not, said the Queen. It's true that whoever finds the key need never return it. But, my dear Prime Minister, we have copies of the key. Just make a New Year's resolution that you'll never again lose your key. Gruffy became impatient. May I go now? He asked. There's so much work to do, and shall I take the children? No, leave them here, Gruffy. They can play with the elves and the fairies until it's time for the party. What fun Tommy and Mary Lou had that afternoon. The fairies showed Mary Lou the dresses they were going to wear to the party, and the elves took Tommy to the magic pool. They showed him how to swim without getting wet and how to sail on an oak leaf boat. They let him slide down a pea pod, and they all played hide and seek among the toadstools. That night at the party, Tommy sat at the Queen's right hand and Mary Lou at her left hand, which was a very great honor indeed. They watched the birds and the butterflies as they circled through the air. The cricket and the katydids played their violins. The lightning bugs hung in the trees like little lanterns. The elves and fairies danced and sang. At the party, Tommy and Mary Lou drank wild strawberry juice out of acorn cups, and they ate honey cake and candies made from ginger root, and they ate and they ate. Then they began to feel sleepy. In the middle of the party, they fell sound asleep, which was very rude, of course, but then they were very tired. And who do you think woke them up? Gruffy? No. The Prime Minister? No. It was their mother calling them home to dinner. And where do you think she found them? On the big rock by the oak tree, at the very place where they had entered Fairyland. On the way home, Tommy dug his hand into his pocket. By hickory and by dickory, there was the key. Mary Lou said, "Oh, Tommy, you still have the key. We can always go back again." By hickory and by dickory, said Tommy, and this time he didn't say nonsense. Mary had a little book, the one that's in your hand, and every single word in it Mary could understand. She read it once, she read it twice, then had another look. She simply couldn't put it down, 'cause it was a jolly book. And that's because this is a jolly book. The end.